Human design is a part science, part spiritual system that tells you who you came here to be. You have your own blueprint, your own way of becoming successful, your own way your dreams are going to come true, the way you'll experience the most joy and fulfillment. The instruction manual for how to move through the world is custom to you. When you act according to that manual, when you act as the real you, everything in life comes to you with more ease and less resistance. We all know we're different, yet we're still acting like there's one way to do life. Let's talk about it. To find out your design and the designs of the people in your life, you can visit myhumandesign.com or download the My Human Design app in the App Store and on Google Play. What feels so pertinent and important for us to talk about today is that there isn't a single person who didn't have a massive spiritual up level over the course of the summer. And it's such a beautiful reminder that we are all in this together in terms of the energies that we're all swimming in. We just have different flavors of what we got challenged with. And as we ramp up to the end of the year, where everything is going to feel way more chaotic, way more destabilizing, there's going to be so many things around us that are going to tell us at every step that life is difficult and life is hard, and our minds are going to tempt us to keep telling the story of how difficult life is. I really want us all to understand that if you're listening to this and you're, one of our cluster, you're on a spiritual journey already, we have to switch into a different phase now, where it is our responsibility to understand that if we don't become anchors that hold the possibility of life being really good, it's not going to get really good. And we have a responsibility to be the ones that go first, because life is not going to get really good for as long as all of us are sitting in the mud and thinking that we're being good humans by continuing to tell the story of how difficult life is. And it's one of the ego's biggest tricks to say, who are you to hold that possibility? Who are you to allow yourself that? You should be a good human by telling the story of how hard it is. And this doesn't mean that we turn a blind eye, and it doesn't mean that things aren't difficult. But what it means is, if we want to create the way out for ourselves and for others, we have to hold the vision before the vision is real, because nothing becomes real until it's imagined. And of course, you've read books probably about this sort of, think positive and all that sort of thing. But how do we ground this is by saying, okay, in order for this vision of life to happen, we have to actually mentally train ourselves and have the discipline that every time I am tempted by myself, by my own guilt, by my own self-judgment, by my own conditioning, or by what the world is talking about and what's going on in the world, every time I see that temptation come up, that is my work to resist it. That is my work to say, this doesn't need to be how it's always going to be. This doesn't mean it's the only reality that's going on in the world right now. Can I train myself to also see the good? Can I train myself to see the possibility? Can I train myself to see that if I go first and allow myself to have really good things, everything that I say and do and create is going to have that higher vibration? Because ultimately, especially I think when you start on a spiritual path, you want to bring everybody with you. And what you try to do is fix people, or you try to go back in your spiritual path and bring them along and drag them along. And so ultimately, we can't make other people elevate by pushing them from the bottom. We have to be at the high point and create this entrainment, i.e. almost like the ladders in Snakes and Ladders, where we create an opening for people to meet us there, because what we're doing is modeling a different kind of frequency, and our energy, especially now, is going to do so much more than our words anyway, and everyone is becoming a way better energy reader. So when they interact with a different kind of human, we're very adjustable. When we interact with a human that is positive, expansive, light-filled, uplifting, in their own joy, it bleeds into us. It's contagious just as much as fear is contagious, just as much as lack is contagious. Everything that we do, we pass on to other people. Everyone who we come into contact with, we have a responsibility, because we are just going to bleed into them, whether we like it or not. Our auras, when they intertwine, we do bleed into them. We leak into other people's aura. It is our responsibility now to make sure that we're only leaking good things in. And that is how you help other people. That is how you elevate the world. And so, of course, there will be certain things that might need your attention, but I would challenge all of us to say that doing so out of ego or personification is selfish. Look how good of a human I am because of how conscious I am, because of these movements, because I'm telling the story of this and this and this. Unless that is your calling, unless that is literally part of how you specifically participate in making the world a better place, we need to learn to read our energy and understand that every conversation that is coming from virtue signaling, reminding yourself how good of a human you are, not wanting to shine so bright, that's a huge one. Now, every single one of those conversations is costing us too much. So what I really want every single person listening to this to do this week, and honestly, until the end of the year, genuinely, is to look at why you are afraid of having it really good. Because if you would want that for every person on the planet, which is ultimately why you keep on looking to the stories of the hard and the suffering and the tough and the politics and the war and the aggression and the everything. Why do we do that? It's because we want the best for everybody. And you can only truly help create that if you've first experimented on your little petri dish, which is you. If you can't allow yourself to have that, you will never fully, truly allow anyone else to have that, because you can do so mentally. But if you haven't created such a solid and beautiful inner landscape, it is a fact that other people having good things will make you feel less than, or will trigger you, or create jealousy, or create separation and lack and comparison and all of those things. And this is what is so amazing about human design to me, because ultimately everybody wants the same things, abundance, love, joy, success, levity, consciousness, all of those things, but it comes in different shapes and sizes for every single one of us. And so whatever your version of joy is not going to be taken by anyone else, is not going to be looking like anyone else's. And so it matters to the divine that you create yours just as much as you help anyone else create theirs, right? There's no only a certain amount of people can be happy, or a certain type of happiness is worth having. Your job is to really double down on what your version is, and therefore you expand other people as well into what theirs is, without you even having to figure out what other people's joy is, what other people's dream life is. I don't know if I sent this to you, Taylor, but I saw this incredible reel on Instagram with the founder of Telegram. And he was being interviewed, and the guy was saying, well, you don't own a plane and you don't own a boat and you're worth so much money. And he said, no, I don't, because all of that requires me to maintain it and to think about it and to spend money and time and energy on it. And I just want to be spending my time and energy on Telegram and making this incredible thing that millions of humans can use. And it was so expansive for me, because it really just does remind me that you have to understand your custom thing of what makes you happy. And I think most of us think we know what makes us happy, but we can't be in joy if we haven't actually really thought it through. And one of the most amazing things, and it's so simple that none of us actually do, is observe yourself in the moment. Am I enjoying this, right? Am I enjoying this interaction with this person without making them bad? Do I actually get something from it? Am I going up? Is it a net positive or is it a net negative? The time I wake up, the way I go to work, my commute, the music I listen to, the food I eat, the meditation I do. Life is such a bigger buffet than we think it is. And obviously, we talk about this a lot, about how our options are so narrowed down to us because of social media and because of homogenization. We're all becoming too similar to each other. And I think that's contributing to why we don't let ourselves have good things, because we only think there's a couple good things worth having. And it's perpetuating this idea that there's not enough to go around. When you understand that your specific good life actually is not what other people would want necessarily, right? Then you find it easier to give yourself full permission to iterate that as your human that got your joy. And then you're excited to help other people get their joy. And it's so fun for you to watch their joy. It's so fun for you to have yours. There's no comparison. So anyway, this week, I think, and into the end of the year, I think it's really important to really, really get clear on what your joy is. And there's always going to be micro refinements you can do to that, right? Like, I'm very clear that I don't want an office with a huge team. And I'm also in a place where I can see other people do it, and I think it's awesome when it seems like it's a match for their energy. I love watching it. I love hearing about it. I love seeing it. And it's not a threat to my joy. And I value myself and other people's joy equally. I take both as seriously as it is, which is the work of a lifetime. The most important thing in the world is to make our dreams come true and become the humans that we came here to be, accomplish and create all the things we said we would before we came here. And that includes you. And if you are someone who aspires to be a way shower towards the future, you have to let go of any guilt of cutting yourself off from the conversations and the noticing and the distraction and the fixation with everything that is wrong. Now, if something is truly a pain point in your life, of course you address it. You address it by changing yourself on the inside, and that goes away. But there's a very big difference between that and an addiction to finding all that is wrong because it is a lowest common denominator of how we bond with other people. The gossip, the worry, the news, the, very crazy nature of, two-party politics, which is total energy suck because it's automatically giving you 50% of your country is your enemy, right? You can't win either way. No one's winning either way, unfortunately. And how we change that is by becoming what I'm talking about today, which is that if it's your job, of course, and that's what lights you up and that's what you're here to do in the world, great. But if that is not your specific role in the group that is our humanity, do your job. Do whatever your job is and do it with the highest consciousness, the highest allowing of yourself to hold that vision of how good life can be, even though life will tell you all day, every day that it's impossible because it's showing you evidence of how it is right now. And we're addicted to that stream of how it is right now and how bad it is right now. And it creates some kind of adrenaline in us. It makes us feel important. It makes us feel conscious. It makes us fill in whatever it makes you feel. You have to come off that mental addiction now because it is your responsibility, even if you can't see how good it can be, just to mentally open yourself up that maybe there is a better way this world can look. And by abstaining from the addiction to the negative stuff and perpetuating it as telling the story of your reality, your movie will naturally change, right? And all that you see anyway here is your movie. And if everyone changes their movie, that's all that matters. So the more you can redivert, and this is the discipline part, is every time you catch yourself being tempted to, even you hear someone say something bad about someone and you're so tempted to just agree. You don't have to disagree and make a fight about it, but you can offer a different perspective. Say, I feel so sorry for those people because I understand what they're going through. Or you can say, oh, you know what? It sucks because if I was in the same position, I think I'd be doing the same. And those are the kind of lines I use all the time because I'm now like, wow, agreeing with other people, even saying negative things, is costing me too much. It doesn't mean I get it perfect all the time, but I feel the cost of it. And that's what I want all of us to really connect to, because I really feel like everyone listening to this is feeling the cost. You feel that yuck afterwards. So I think it's going to be more important than ever that there is a tipping point of people who don't know how good it can look, but are just, even if you're not wishy-washy thinking about how good the future is, you're at least abstaining from the negative, the addiction to the negative. You're at least killing your own ego and your own persona by not being a kind of person who perpetuates that for their own self-narrative of who they are as a consequence of that.
What I'm hearing in this, and we talk a lot more about this in the New Paradigm series on the app, but how we're moving from a collective energy into an individual energy. I think from, coming off of the collective energy, that collective energy, it is really natural to be like looking to the collective to what the truth of our reality is. And so we are sort of addicted to that because that's been the norm for hundreds of years. And we're moving into individual, where our individual reality is actually the way that we're supposed to transform the collective reality, by focusing on the individual, by pulling ourselves out of the swarm that is happening outside of us, and going, okay, what am I spotting? What are my areas that I can infuse my highest alignment into? Because what's in front of you is your job more than ever. Am I correct in saying that?
100%. And I love that you highlighted the way that you do change the collective is by focusing on yourself. And we have such heavy conditioning around focusing on yourself being that it's selfish. And of course it is, if it's in a self-serving, egoic way. But if it is out of, there is a specific task that was implanted in me, that I'm in charge of looking after my own karma and destiny, because that's the only thing that I ultimately do have complete control over. And by devoting myself to that, it will affect everything else without me directly having to go out there with my stick and beat the world into how I think it needs to be. That's a much more quantum way of changing the world. And we are moving from linear to quantum. We are moving from, it's not 0, then 1, then 2, then 3. It's 0 to 50, and then maybe 50 wormholes into 250. And then it plateaus there for a while because we're not ready for the 250, and so on and so forth. So that's how quick your reality can change. And this work, because it's difficult, it's not easy, especially when you feel lucky enough already, to feel like there's more that you could open yourself up to. It's so important that you do that for other people, because you would want other people to find it easy to do that. And so you have to be a person that finds it hard to do that, because that's what going first is. And trust me, the mind is the best spin doctor there is. And it will tell you, no, it's selfish. Other people are going to be jealous. Other people are going to feel threatened. Other people are going to judge you. You're going to feel like a bad person. And that's the work, is to hear those voices and to say, oh, okay, I kind of knew you were coming. And I feel your grip on me. And I can feel that you're so real. But what if I just try to think that maybe it's not real? That's all you have to do. Even if you don't clearly see how it's exactly the opposite, because it's really hard to do that. If you just say, okay, I was expecting you there, little friend, because you're the test. All right. Well, what if I just do it anyway? Or what if I come back to it later and just imagine how good I would feel if everyone could find this easy, if everyone could see life that way, if everyone could hold down that understanding over the lower form of understanding, everyone would make better decisions in the world, and we would have a different world, right? There would be so many less issues being created. But historically, we haven't seen enough of people holding down that understanding. So my invitation and my battle cry to all of us is like, please hold down the understanding. You need it for yourself. Your spirit is like thirsting for it. And also there are so many people whose spirits are thirsting for it that they are not yet even in touch with themselves to realize what they're even thirsting for. And therefore, that's why they are going to the endless scrolling and the endless gossiping and the endless, making enemies out of everybody and making good guys and bad guys and all of this stuff. So I really believe that we can do this. I feel all of you guys so much, and I feel like I know so many of you so well that really, if you're here, it's because this is what we're meant to know. And where human design for me has really changed the game in sort of understanding the spiritual journey is that the number one thing people say to both of us about what they've gotten from their learning about their human design, everyone says, I trust myself more. And ultimately, the reason why we are looking to the outside so much is because we are looking for someone to say, this is your permission slip. Yes, you can do this with your life. This is a good career choice. This is a good person to marry. It's a right age to have kids. It's a good move to freeze your eggs, or it's good to eat, keto or whatever. But ultimately, no one is coming to save you but you. And that is the scariest news, but it's also the best news, because you have the divine in you, and no one else you can ask is going to be your divine that comes through you. And what's incredible about human design, I was telling two people at dinner this last night, is that over and over and over again, we want to learn more information all the time. We want to go to all the 25,000 spiritual things that there are, and they're so much fun. But where has unlocked the magic is it's the rinse and repeat every single day of, I now know that every decision I make that isn't from my emotional authority, more and more, it's made so obvious that I am wasting my time. I'm throwing myself out of alignment. I just don't want to do it anymore because I know that I can't do it to myself. And the more I actually blindly, right? I don't know where listening to my emotional authority is going to take me sometimes, but I go there anyway. And what comes back is that every time now I do it, it's made clear as day, because we are moving to the new paradigm. Things are much more fast and easy to see. It's clear as day that it's the right thing to do. And therefore, what do? I stop outsourcing my decision-making to the rest of the world, which is the thing that for my whole 20s made me feel completely lost, completely hopeless, completely powerless. And now it's not like I feel powerful over people. I feel like, oh, I know how to run this kingdom that is me. I don't have to know how it's going to look, but I trust myself to know that I'm always going to make the right decision if I do this one thing. And it's not even about me. It's not about being special. It's not about any of that stuff. It's just like, oh, there's a mechanism in me that really works, and I know how to lean on that now. And it just continues to give me evidence every single day that I do it. So why would I not now? Why would I stop? And that's what people who really are living their design consistently day in, day out, just listening to their strategy and their authority, it reaps magic beyond what you can believe. And that's when that's when you start to think, I want to show other people this way. And not just with human design, but with this belief and this connection to spirit, and this, because it's really grounding it into how you can move through life. And so it's more than just the hoping and the wishing. It's like, oh, I become a person who is grounded in myself, who knows who they are. And that, again, it bleeds into everyone who meets you. And then people trust you, and then you trust yourself, and then you do become a way shower, and then people trust you to show them the way. So no matter what career you're in, that is an energy. Like, we all know the florists that we go to who we just love doing business with, and we just want to pay them because they're just such good vibes, That's an example. Or, a travel person that you love working with, or an events person that you love working with, or the person that serves you coffee in the morning. Like, everybody has that experience of there's certain people who you just, you want to tip the Uber driver more, who just has great vibes, right? And what they've done is they've net added positive to your day. That is consciousness. That is the ultimate. And so it's not about the job you're in. It's about what you're allowing your mind to open possibilities to, and what you are saving the mind from obsessing over that might be keeping you away from a different kind of reality and just perpetuating the one that we are all very stuck in right now and very sick of.
The trip is, though, that the way for the new paradigm isn't like, okay, I'm going to like focus on my individual reality and then try to get other people on board with mine. It's not going to work that way. Like, you have my mind stuck on you saying this quantum reality. I know I can hear people going, what does she mean by quantum reality? And let's say that is true. Okay, like let's say there is millions and millions and millions of different realities happening at the same time. To me, human design makes the most sense as the only way for that to even be possible, because if we cannot, as we move into the new paradigm, rely, of course there will be structures from the previous cycle that stay in place, because we need some sort of structure to, play within. But let's say it's true that there's millions and millions of different realities. The only way for that to even be possible and have us not go insane is to trust our own strategy and authority, to have some sort of internal individual structure that we can rely upon to play within the bounds of our individual experience of reality and still be okay with the person next to us having a different individual experience of reality. Is that what you're referring to when you say quantum reality, or am I misinterpreting what you're saying?
I think you're saying something adjacent, which is that, yeah, I mean, right now we are living 8 billion different realities technically, and they will, as we hopefully, whether we're making the most of it on purpose by listening to being who we really are rather than be like everybody else, we will iterate and individuate more broadly, right? So there'll be completely different, wider kinds of different lives, wider kind of different experiences on this planet. And, many people have said that you won't even necessarily interact with people who you're not a match for anymore. So it will be like different worlds in this world. But quantum reality is already sort of happening in the sense that old science was very, if this, then that. And that still sort of applies, but where a lot of recent scientific behaviors and discoveries are about, it doesn't always apply the rules to every situation. The observer effect has a massive impact on how our particles and atoms behave. Light is both a wave and a particle. There are so many things that are now quantum entanglement, right? Things that don't make sense according to our very three-dimensional base, like things moving at a certain pace, things being connected physically. We're defying the laws of what we thought were very sort of basic, rudimentary understandings of how the world works. And so you're going to see that there are so many things that are laws that we've kind of come to believe are what we operate on now that are going to get disproved, because that's the nature of science anyways. We're always just discovering more, but it will be to a place where things will feel out of control because they're not predictable as they were before. And we as humans are so attached to predictability because that's what creates that false sense of safety and control, because if we need it to come from the outside, like what you're saying, if it comes from the inside, right, then you don't need the outside stuff as much. But the quantum reality is really like change can happen overnight. Be prepared for things to happen super quickly. You can be thinking that something is going to take you 5 years to do, but if you up-level your consciousness, it can happen tomorrow, right? Things can literally come out of nowhere, you couldn't even conceive that they could happen in your own mind, but they do. And I think we're already seeing that for many people around us. I know people who've 10x their salaries from one thing to the next out of nowhere, but it's not really out of nowhere. It's because their consciousness up-leveled so much. And now what's amazing is you only have to up-level your consciousness a tiny bit to get incredible rewards for it. So quantum reality is really the recognition in science, which is just the observation of life, in the sheer, beautifully chaotic way that the world works, because none of it is, there isn't one consistent thing that we can say about every situation, every reality, every piece of, dust in the universe. There's no such thing that applies to all of them, except for the laws of the universe, as within, so without, as above, so below, laws of karma, things like that, the energetic laws. But all the physical laws, psychosomatic laws, psycho-spiritual laws, every type of thing that we think applies to everything is going to get proven that it's either wrong or there's exceptions to it. And we have to become comfortable in understanding that that's not scary. That's actually so promising, because it's not the laws that control you. The laws are a set of options, and your consciousness is what is going to activate the certain option that's going to be the outcome for you. So if you want to live in a quantum reality, you have to detangle yourself from seeing everything as fixed and so controlling of you. And that's how you open yourself up to the quantum reality. Or you can stay out of it if you want to stay out of quantum reality, by continuing to tell the story of how linear things are, how long things take, how everything on the outside is something that is controlling you or limiting you, right? So that's how we get to go in the stream of the things that our consciousness, which is the great director of our lives, is going to choose to steer into. And this is where it really comes back to mental discipline, because if we've been brought up and we've come from a lineage of hundreds and hundreds of years of a different way, and it's literally in our ancestral patterning, it's not just however long you've lived on this planet, it's deep. This is deep stuff. And so not only are you undoing what you've seen in your life, you are undoing what's in your genes, right? But you go back 300 years, much less even in some cases, there was mass oppression. Of course, you had to believe that the world was controlling you, because the world did control you. But now that we're switching paradigms, we have to pre-adjust to a reality in order to make that reality come into fruition and become a thing on this physical plane. That, okay, we have to deprogram ourselves from the other thing in order to even have space in our minds for this other one to even exist in the world. Because otherwise, if humans don't hold it down, it doesn't exist. So I think it's important to acknowledge that it's difficult. I think it's important to acknowledge that you're not unspiritual or non-conscious if you have these thoughts, because, spoiler, everybody does. And simultaneously say, I know there's a calling in my soul, there's a tug at my soul that I could actually start exploring, that there's other stuff to focus on, and that's how it will be drawn more into this world. And I want that for every single human being, including myself, including the people across the world who I don't even know, who are just other human beings who I would love to, have this experience where everybody on this world, the world would be so incredible for me to live in if everybody was, living this way and talking this way and thinking this way. And if everybody was, then no one would ever start the crap that we're dealing with in the first place. And that's how we eliminate it. It's not by attacking it directly always, but by snuffing it out at the very source of its origin.
If you like this conversation, I think you would really like the Quiet Revolution New Paradigm Workshop that's in the app. It's just a deeper iteration of this conversation. Mm-hmm. So I would recommend that.
And I really just want to say to everybody here, I'm so grateful. I really am so grateful, because your own becoming is your own journey. And it is difficult, but just knowing in the world that there are other people who are on this journey is the fuel that keeps us all going, I think. And so, all the messages that people send, all the chats that people have in the forum where they're sharing what they're going through, and all the stories of, listen, I didn't invent human design. It still surprises me every single time, as if it was brand new, when someone tells me a story of what they created in their life by living their design. And that's what keeps me going too, because I think I've joked about this before, but I'm the most skeptical person about all of this stuff. But every day I have one thing that shows me, oh, it's not just in me that this works. This works like every single time. It's not like 98% of people reported good results. It's like every single time a person is doing it, it's 100 out of 100. And that's what, my sort of nerdy brain gets shut up by, right? The one that wants to know, and the one that wants to doubt, and the one that prides itself on being cynical. It's just, this is a mechanical system that, we've spoken about this before, Taylor. Science is catching up with all the things that Ra Uru Hu, the founder of human design, used to talk about in the late 80s that are now being proven by scientific research. And there will be a time when people understand why the science of your energy, the mapping of your aura, why it exactly works. And it's so cool that, we all get to be early adopters together. So thank you so much. And I appreciate it being on this ride together. And here's to our rising.